Have any personal or prejudicial interest to declare? Take that as a no. I'd like to propose that the minutes of the meeting held on the 4th of March 2026 to be confirmed in the correct way.
I'm happy to second those minutes, Mr. Mayor.
Does anybody want to speak on this item? We'll take a vote on it, everyone in favour. Item 3 is Mayor's announcements. I don't have a lot to say, but like everyone that supported the board, everyone that I know has met has said what a good do it was. And I know they're going to be delighted with it. It did seem like a good do. Thank you for those who may have helped support it. Chief Executive's communications. Alan Oliver, do you have any communications?
I have none this evening, thank you, Mr. Mayor.
There are no questions on this occasion from members of the public. Item 6. One question has been received from a member of the council. Councillor Taylor, would you like to ask your question?
Thank you. Please can the leader provide information about the number of events that have taken place in the £3 million St Anne's event space since it was completed?
Councillor Buckley, would you like to respond?
Yes, of course, Mr. Mayor. Thank you for the question. I am delighted to have the opportunity to talk about the investment in St Anne's and resolve any confusion or misinterpretation by Councillor Taylor. It is important, first and foremost, to be clear that this project was never conceived, designed or funded as a standalone events venue, and its success should not be judged solely by counting the number of organised events held within it. The new space forms part of a much wider multi-million-pound phased regeneration programme for St Anne's, delivered under the adopted town centre master plan. The golden thread running through that programme is about creating a more accessible, attractive and economically resilient town centre, improving the square, the public realm, pedestrian movement, accessibility, transport connections, landscaping, lighting and the overall quality and perception of the town centre. Within that context, the space was intentionally designed as flexible and multi-purpose public space. It supports programmed events where appropriate, but its primary role is to create a high-quality focal point that encourages everyday footfall, supports local businesses and strengthens the wider town offer. But specifically in relation to events, we have had plenty. Since last July, the space has already hosted around 9 programmed events and activities. On any reasonable measure, that is an excellent level of activity for a new public realm space whose primary purpose is not event-led. These include major town events such as the Army Freedom Parade and St Anne's Carnival Parade, as well as the St Anne's Music Festival, Fylde Fest on 2 occasions, the Christmas Lights Switch On, and the expanded Kite Festival with staging, performances and street theatre. In addition, the space has supported a wide range of community and participation activity, including an 8-week yoga programme, live performances, dance and fitness sessions, markets and community showcases. New initiatives such as the Crafty Vintage Artisan Market are also attracting new audiences into our town centre. Alongside these organised events, the space is used daily for informal and everyday activity, which is a key part of its purpose as a public realm investment. Looking ahead, the programme continues to grow, with returning events such as the Fylde Fest, the Kite Festival and the Music Festival, as well as new and expanded uses including markets, community-led initiatives and increased evening activity. As with many town centre regeneration schemes, the benefits are not limited to individual events. They are reflected in increased footfall, improved perception of place and the long-term vitality of St Anne's. The Council will continue to work with partners and businesses to maximise appropriate use of the space, but its value should be understood within these wider regeneration objectives. Thank you, Mr. Mayor.
Well, thank you. Councillor Ted, do you have any supplementary question?
Thank you. I do have a supplementary
Councillor Taylor,
question.
if you do have a question, it must relate to the answer you've just been given.
Yes, yes, I would like to thank the leader for the answer that she's provided, and don't quite share her feeling that 9 events is a high score. I just would like to ask whether some protection from the winds that come across St Anne's Square at the seaward end might help to make the event space more attractive and ensure that events were less likely to be cancelled because of weather conditions. Thank you.
Thank you. Councillor Buffett, would you like to respond?
Yes, of course, and we are at mercy to the weather, especially in St Anne's, and we are quite well aware of the wind and adapt to the wind, and so I think that's a fair question. And I know that our officers are looking at all measures going forward into the use and what protective measures can be taken, and so that certainly will be taken back, and that's part of not just the weather, which we cannot control, but also in looking at all aspects, safety aspects as well in particular, as we know how important they are. So very much on the forefront of the minds of our officers when those organisations and events are planned. Thank you.
Thank you, Councillor Buffett. Item 7. I invite Councillor Chris Dixon to propose item 7, fully funded budget increase.
Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. So, councillors, this is the replacement for the household support funding monies which government has issued to file in the past. This now comes to us in the form of the Crisis and Resilience Fund monies, again paid by the government via Lancashire County Council. We've been allocated a fantastic sum of £817,501. So the Crisis Resilience Fund will enable us to deliver immediate crisis support and preventative interventions that strengthen household and community resilience. Funding can be used for essential needs such as food, energy, alongside wider activities to improve financial stability, reduce hardship and build community capacity. This time around, the funding now has a new emphasis on early interventions to prevent people escalating into a crisis situation. It's looking more at partnership-led delivery, particularly through the voluntary sector, coordinated support through resilience hubs, and targeted support for households most at risk. So it's aimed at stopping the problems before they get too big. So Adita and her team have been working incredibly hard on this for months. They've been hosting sessions in the community to look at where best to place this funding and how best to use it. They've been meeting with the voluntary sector and with partners all over the place. So I said before, the emphasis is now on interventions and a preventative approach, dealing with issues in a collaborative resilience hub in the community. This funding should now go further thanks to Adita and her team's work, with less reliance on high cost and time consuming council services. So I'd ask everybody to support the recommendations as they are on page 5.
Councillor Norris, would you like to second?
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Mayor. I'd like to second this item and reserve my right to speak. Thank you.
Does anybody want to speak on this item? You will take it.
Michelle will speak. Michelle reserved her right, but she wants to speak.
Yes, is there anything else you'd like to say?
No, nothing to add. Thank you, Mr. Mayor. Thank you.
Can we take a vote on this item? Are we happy with it? Yeah. That's unanimous. Item 8. Can I invite Councillor Karen Buffett to propose this item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. As members will be aware, Councillor Richard Redcliffe will shortly become the new mayor for the next municipal year, and as such is stepping back from his other positions of responsibility. So first of all, I would like to thank Richard very much for his hard work in the role of Deputy Leader and for his support, but also it gives me pleasure to recommend that to appoint Councillor Vince Settle as the Deputy Leader of the Council from the date of the AGM, 13th of May, for the remainder of the term of office, which may see us out as a final council, who knows. But I make that recommendation, Councillor Vince Settle. Thank you.
Thank you. Do you have a second?
Yes, Mr Mayor, I'm very, very happy to second that proposal.
Does anybody want to speak on this item? And we will go straight to the vote. All those in favour? That's unanimous. That takes us on to item 9. I invite Councillor Vince Settle to propose this item. You're not ready.
Mr Mayor, I rise to propose this item, if that's all right with you. We must have got cross wires, but
Everybody says Vince Settle.
oh, okay. But you would allow me to propose this item.
Yes, fine, yes.
And Councillor Settle is happy to second it. So I simply move the recommendations
Yes.
that are laid out in the agenda and in the paper before you, and the changes to the seats on the committees and the responsibilities, which are all set out in the appendix, from the Conservative group side, are as a result of what I've just mentioned of Councillor Richard Redcliffe becoming mayor next year. So there has been therefore some changes to the responsibilities and seats on committees, which are all still within political bounds. So those are laid out in the appendix, and the recommendations which I move are on page 11.
Thank you for that, Councillor Buckley. Do we have a second?
Councillor Scott.
Thank you, Mr Mayor. Very happy to second
That's a
those
additional
proposals.
mic. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? Then we will go straight to the vote. All in favour? Agenda item 10. Delegation of functions. Can I invite Councillor Tommy Shuffle to propose this item?
Thank you, Mr Mayor. I rise to this item tonight as this item arises out of two significant pieces of legislation that place additional responsibilities on the council and other district councils. The first piece of legislation is the Building Safety Act, which is the main legislative response to the tragic Grenfell Tower fire a few years ago. Regulations under the Act impose a building safety levy that must be paid on what is termed major residential development. Broadly speaking, development consisting of 10 or more residential units. The Council is the collecting authority for the levy, and the proposed delegation set out in the report gives authority to the relevant service director to make necessary arrangements. The Renters' Rights Act is a new piece of legislation that rebalances the relationship between landlords and tenants in the private rented housing sector. The Act gives the Council additional enforcement powers and responsibilities, building on those already administered by the Council as a local housing authority. The proposed delegation effectively extends to the delegation of existing enforcement powers to cover the additional powers under the new Act. Both the Building Safety Act and Renters' Rights Act are significant pieces of legislation, but the request for the Council this evening is simply a technical one to put in place the necessary delegations to enable the Council to properly administer the new responsibilities. Thank you, Mr Mayor, and I have a second.
Councillor Dixon, if I'm going to second this.
Yeah, Mr Mayor, I will second this, yes, reserve my right to speak.
Thank you. Does anybody wish to speak on this item? No. You don't wish to, no. We will now take a vote. All in favour? And that concludes our meeting.